What's going on, people? Welcome to Man Knows Football. You're here with myself, Guni, and Matisse. When you do come in, make sure you do smash the like button and subscribe because we are on the road to 10K. We are not messing around. I need to move this light out of the way. There you go. See you later. Oh, not quite. Yep, there we go. It's out of the way. But yeah, man, we're going to be here to be talking about Norwich versus Chelsea, the injury updates, and also the situation with Andreas Christensen. But Matisse, first and foremost, how are you doing, bro?
Good, bro. Very good. Busy day. It's been a good day so far. Bit of TV in the morning, London clubs carnage with the boys as well, and now this, and obviously Champions League football later. So it don't get much better, man. It's been a good Wednesday. How you been? You good?
Yeah, not too bad, man. Sort of just getting my head around this whole Chelsea takeover news, and I must say, the news that is coming out over the past few days, it seems to be a bit more positive in terms of the potential buyers now that more information is coming out on them. But obviously, it's just hearsay and promises at this point. We don't know who's going to be taking over. And right now, it's just a bunch of words. We don't know how they're going to behave once they have the club. But from what I've seen, it looks positive to me. Just on that note, really. But I don't really want to make today about the club takeover because, again, anything that we're speaking about is just wild speculation at this point. And I don't really want to be one to get sucked into the speculation too much. And we have a game tomorrow, innit? A very winnable game against Norwich, who are sitting rock bottom.
Yeah.
At the bottom of the table. Out of the last 5 games, they have lost 4 and drawn 1. They're basically a sorry sight for the Premier League. No disrespect to Norwich, but we should be taking care of them. Business as usual, as far as I'm concerned, whether or not we've got our first choice wing backs or not. Even if we play a back 4 or whatever, I'm confident of a victory in this game. But Tuchel did have a press conference and he did talk about injuries. He said everybody is fit except for Reece James, who did get a muscular injury, not on his right leg, I believe it's his left leg, so not the one he was injured on previously. So, but that was a little bit expected because, you know, when he came back, Tuchel did mention after when did he first come back? We played extra time. I think it was Liverpool. It was the Liverpool game when he came back. He was only fit to play 20 minutes, but he played 70.
Yes.
And then he continued to play after that. So this was sort of expected. But just going into tomorrow, Matisse, I mean, really, any questions that I'm asking you is kind of stating the obvious given the form of Norwich. But how do you see us going into the game tomorrow?
Well, we got to take it seriously. You know, we have an opportunity to put together a little run, which we desperately need to do because January was not a great month for us. And for me, I'm not taking nobody lightly because anybody down there is fighting for survival. This is a must-win game for Norwich.
Facts.
And although it's not likely for them to win, they're still going to put, you'd expect everything towards trying to get a win over us. It's not even a draw. It's a must-win, or, you know, relegation is only just edging closer. They're running out of time. They're not so far adrift that they can't save themselves, but they are far enough adrift where this is a must-win. So it's a dangerous game. It's a dangerous game to underestimate and think that we're going to blitz them. You know, I'm going into every game now until the end of the season with, you know, a little bit of, you know,
caution and respect
for the opposition, because the end of the season is when freak results happen. Burnley, I thought it would be difficult. Thankfully, you know, second half we blitzed them, but first half was looking like same old. And now we have to establish which is the real Chelsea. Is it the Chelsea of the first half with 79% possession that couldn't really, you know, test the goalkeeper too much? Or is it the Chelsea in the second half that absolutely blitzed Burnley and had a field day? Probably somewhere in between is where we actually are. But, you know, same as again, we need to go and win that game and win it comfortably. You know, we need to try and get, you know, 3 points. Try and get it done as well. Try and get it done. If we're so good, let's go get that done in the first half, because we got Newcastle on Sunday, and make no mistake, they are in a whole different vibe now.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, but we should be going out there for me with our strongest team. Don't take them lightly. We should be aiming to go on a run, and if we do blitz them, fantastic. Then you can start to rest players, but go in there with the intention of trying to blitz them. Don't go in there weakening your team, in my opinion, and trying to be smart about it, because they could easily, you know, cause problems and just any given day in the Premier League, anything can happen. That's how I see it these days. So I'm confident, but more so still going to give them some respect.
100%. No, you're right. You're right. And like, I know the way I sounded, I didn't mean to come across as if that this was going to be a gimme. To me, it should. I ain't gonna
It
lie.
should
To
be.
me, it should be. It should
Yeah.
be. But with what you've just mentioned, you never take a team, especially in relegation dogfights. You never take them lightly ever, because at any point, this is, and also as well on the flip side, this is a game that could be a turnaround point for them, because if they get a result, they could claw their way out of that. So you never know. So you're right in that respect. But are we not going to be cautious about the game at the weekend against Newcastle in terms of team selection, though?
I wouldn't, because they're both games are 3 points. Do you know what I'm saying? And for me, it's like I would just focus on the next game. I would focus on this game coming up on Thursday, get the job done, then look at Newcastle afterwards. At this point, Reece is out. Anything can happen in terms of injuries at this point. I don't think we can try and manage it, but it's we played Saturday to Thursday is a good break in my opinion. That's a good enough break. Saturday to Thursday is pretty good. So there shouldn't be any need to really rest heavily, unless you are bearing in mind Newcastle on Sunday. But for me, I would just focus on this game, get this game wrapped up if they can. Then you can start to rest, and then you just reassess the fitness afterwards. But Newcastle is going to be a tricky game regardless, whether we go with our strongest team or not, because Newcastle they got a little fire in their belly. I think they're unbeaten in 8, and they're on a nice little winning streak as well. So Newcastle for me is Sunday's problem. For me, I don't want to see no shocks on Thursday, because that will be our own fault. If we don't go out there and do the job and get business done, get business taken care of, that will be down to us, not anything else. So I would just focus on Thursday, take it very seriously. Don't no surprises, no shocks, no scares, no drama. Get the job done, and then maybe 65 minutes you can start to rest players, but you got to get the job done first. Last thing we want to do is go into that game, rest a few players. We're now 0-0, 60 minutes gone. Now we're stressing. Everybody's stressed. We need a goal. Where are we getting it from? Because this team are very unpredictable with goals. 100%. Their finishing is very unpredictable. We got 4 at Turf Moor, which is great. But I can also see us not scoring, like we have many a time against Everton at home, who are awful this season. Wolves away. So goals are not guaranteed for Chelsea. So that's why we can't afford to be that team that really rotate too much, because we can't guarantee that we're going to put the ball in the back of the net.
Now, a unique situation that we find ourselves in is that we've got 100 million striker that's sitting on the bench and has been sitting on the bench for several games. Now, personally, if it was up to me, I'm going with what you're saying. I'm keeping things as is, going with what's the strongest team, and I think the strongest team that we have is what performed in the second half against Burnley. But would you be surprised if you were to see Lukaku step into the lineup rather than Kai Havertz against Norwich? Now, I think Kai, from now till the end of the season, minimum, should be our first choice in that centre forward false 9 position, rather than having Lukaku as the number 9. But then I also understand the politics that come with it, because obviously it's a hefty price tag. There's going to be pressure to play him.
I would go Kai against Norwich, and I would go Kai against Newcastle. I'd make it very clear to Kai that he's first choice in the Premier League, and in obviously the critical Champions League games. Not only because he deserves it and he's on good form, he just scored 2 goals against Burnley. He deserves to keep that going and try and build up momentum, 100%. Confidence. Again, this is the key here with Kai, is that if you've now got him in good form, why would you now take him out and then disturb his flow, and then we have to start all over again? For me, Premier League, bread and butter, Kai. Kai deserves it. Kai is playing well. He's been playing well for weeks. I don't see any fitness issues there, considering he's been rotated and all this kind of stuff all season. It's not like he's played every game. I'd go Kai up top. I'd stick with the front 3. Unless Ziyech is fit, then maybe Ziyech comes in over Mount, because I think Ziyech has been in good form, but probably got a manager. Maybe he'll come off the bench 30 minutes, whatever it will be. And then I would look at Lukaku for Lille away. Champions League, different vibe. Lille 2-0 down, so you'd expect Lille to come out in the second leg, which would leave space in behind in the away in that game there. in the second leg, and then Middlesbrough in the FA Cup is the next game, and Lukaku could play that one as well. So I'd go Havertz for the next two, maybe Lukaku for the next two, and then just prioritize Kai for the bigger games, which is basically every Premier League game and then the critical Champions League games. I think you could probably get away with playing Lukaku in the second leg because we are 2-0 up. But then I'd have Kai straight back in for Brentford, Southampton afterwards in the league. So for me, I'm sticking with Kai. I'm playing him, in these two games. Then if he needs a rest, he gets his rest because that whole week is FA Cup / Champions League second, and then you could bring him back maybe. But definitely he'd have to be back for me unless Lukaku rips up the place. But yeah, I'd focus on keeping Kai in the team as much as possible.
Back four or back five?
Got to be back four against Norwich. For me, I just feel like we don't need the extra security of a back three against Norwich. We shouldn't. Norwich are Norwich. They are where they are at the moment for a reason. I would personally prioritize, given that back four, getting more attackers onto the pitch. Maybe you could even get Ziyech on with Mount plus Pulisic and Kai. That could be a front four. And then you could go with whoever you want in the pivot. Maybe Kovac and Kante. Doesn't really matter to me at this point who plays in that pivot. I think Kovac's the one that's standing out in terms of this season. And then Kante and Georgie are a little bit off. And yeah, I think for me, I look at Norwich's attack. Pukki. These guys, they shouldn't be giving us no problem. We really should be keeping a clean sheet against this team. And I have faith in Silva, Rudiger, Chalobah, whoever goes out there. I have faith in them to keep a clean sheet and get the job done. I also think now that Reece is out, I'm not really so gung ho on the wing back thing because. Wing back is Reece. Reece is at wing back. He gets into the box. He scores goals. He creates chances. He's high up the pitch. That was what was really exciting about having Reece back. No Reece against Norwich. Do I need Azpilicueta in an advanced position? Probably not. Marcos Alonso's hot and cold. Not a massive fan of him anyway. So you could just go Malang Sarr. You could give Malang Sarr another game there. Left back. Azpilicueta right back. Flat back four, and let the attackers do what they want to do going forward.
Hopefully Malang Sarr doesn't give us a performance like he did in the FA Cup because that was the worst.
Bro, even Kennedy, Kennedy
as well.
He scored a goal at Norwich, I swear, innit?
Yep. We can use Kennedy's also an option that I always forget that's there. But we do, listen, the last game that we did play Norwich, 7-0. Some beautiful goals scored in that game. Before we move on to the injuries and Andreas Christensen, let me just know your score prediction for the game tomorrow.
My score prediction will be 3-0. I think we'll take care of business. I hope we are going to take care of business, but I'm confident. I'm very, very confident. You have to be confident against Norwich.
I'm going to be emphatic and say 5. Let's say 5-0 Chelsea. Either way, I think we're going to get a win, a convincing one. We're going to move on to Newcastle, which obviously is going to be a more difficult test. But Tuchel did give us some injury updates. What did he say about Reece James? So the injury updates that Tuchel said at the press conference today, everybody was on the training pitch today except for Ben Chilwell and Reece James, who has some muscular problems after his 3 games. He has muscular problems in his other leg, not the previously injured leg, but he will still need some further assessment. He felt it during the match and didn't get any better. Today, there will be further examinations. It's obvious what he can give to our team, so it is not good news at the moment. As for Ben Chilwell, Chile was back out on the grass training, and I think 1 minute he was out on the grass and they took a picture of him. The weather made it possible he could do exercise outside, and it was good to see, but he still has a long way to go. They made him smell the grass and get a bit excited, but nothing close to football or team training. There isn't any chance he will be back before the end of this season. So with Chilwell, we kind of knew that already, and we a lot of us have spoken about this months ago that the chances of it all depended around that January period as to whether he needed surgery. If he didn't need surgery, there was going to be a chance that he would have been able to continue later on into the season. But the fact that he had surgery completely ruled him out until at least next season. But it's still a positive sight to see him back on the grass doing individual training. Do you know what I mean? After an injury like that required the surgery like that, I believe it was keyhole surgery to reconstruct the ligament that was damaged. But in terms of Reece James, though, it's another situation where, similar to N'Golo Kante during the Sarri time, rushing back from injury, overplay them, and back to injuries again. Now this time it's on his other leg.
Yeah,
this can't be a sustainable model for any of these players. It can't, because we're gonna risk burning out Reece James way before he should, and this is actually concerning me. But in terms of Tuchel, what options does he have?
He doesn't. I mean, this is all because we have, players as depth that take away a lot of assets to the team. Technically, we're not as good without Reece in the wing back position. Athleticism wise, we're not as good either, and that goes for both sides. So,
even in front of goal.
So it's like you've got that trade-off between winning games and having your best players out there, or rotating more and potentially dropping points, which is what we saw when we had injuries in the midfield when Loftus-Cheek and Saul Niguez had to start games, Watford, etc. I mean, we managed to go on to win that, but they weren't the reason why. They tried to chuck it in the first half. So it's a situation where he can't really win because he needs to win games, but then he also therefore has to take these risks. Now, these risks wouldn't have to be taken if we'd got the wing back in the summer, which is what he clearly wanted. Reportedly, he wanted a wing back. We didn't get that wing back. Preferably a wing back that can play both sides. So they have enough of a sniff of first team football to rotate with either Chilwell or Reece, and they cover for both. And obviously that's a certain particular player that you've got to scout to do that. Hakimi was obviously the first choice target. That fell through. Livramento was allowed to go because maybe of the Hakimi links and the way that they put him into the under 18 squad after not signing no contract. Another player that can play both sides. So when you fumble the bag on both those deals in different ways, or maybe Hakimi wanted to go Paris, his wife getting involved, or his girlfriend, whatever it is, you have to find an alternative. And if you don't, this is a situation we leave ourselves in. And some people are saying it's a lot of hindsight and, oh, well, we didn't know who's going to get these injuries. Well, to be honest, some people were saying in the summer we needed wing backs. I was one of them. When I get things wrong, I say it. Rudiger, completely wrong. That guy is he's been much better now under Tuchel than I ever thought he would. I never thought he would even reach this level. But I tweeted many a time, we are going to fumble up by losing Livramento because we don't have the depth in this position, because we don't have the pace, we don't have the technique, we don't have the attacking threat down either side when these two are missing. And how can you have a system predicated on wing backs and then expect to get through the season without having a rotational option who is athletic? This is the most athletic position in the team. This is the position that covers the whole width of the pitch. Of course, you have to rotate this position more than maybe all of the others, because this is the position that is most taxing physically. That's just a fact. Everybody knows this. You have literally got to be at 1 minute at right back and at next minute right wing. You're literally doing most of the running. You're carrying the ball so far up the pitch, and you're having to track runners coming back. So much is required. It only makes sense to rotate in this position and to have depth, have good quality depth, which we don't have. And that's why Tuchel wanted, maybe even Adama Traore, who was linked. I'm not a big fan of him for Chelsea. I think he's decent, but I wouldn't want him at Chelsea. But if Tuchel wanted him, then you have to get him for Tuchel.
I reckon as a backup option, he would have been just that. I reckon he would have been solid enough to be a backup. But in terms of someone to rely on week in, week out, no, absolutely not. No, I have to agree with you, man. And my concern is that, all of these injuries that are accumulating, is Reece James becoming an injury-prone player? This is a question that we might need to start asking. And obviously, none of this is his fault. It's the way he's been managed, and just rightly, like you said, it's how we've gone about business, our recruitment, and letting players go, and just how we've just dealt with situations. It's been horrible. So that's a massive factor to what we're seeing with Reece James. Now, another one of our defenders, well, no longer our defenders, Andreas Christensen, will be leaving Chelsea Football Club at the end of this season. And quite a few fans are not happy with Christensen leaving. Me personally, I've got nothing against Christensen leaving Chelsea because I'm looking at the picture a bit more holistically. In terms of, I've said it 100 times, like certain players earning more than him and how long it's taken for contract talks to just, to be concluded, because it's always just a saga with him. Like, I've always felt, I said it to Eunice yesterday, like these links with Barca, when this is not the first time, it's happened previously before.
Yeah.
And he's taken his time on contract decisions before. So him leaving the club doesn't surprise me. I personally think that it's a personal goal of his to play at the highest level in La Liga. He's done. Listen, I feel he's done enough at Chelsea to say, you know what, I feel I've done enough. I want to go over to another league. Turned down Premier League offers as well. Bear in mind, he turned down Premier League teams. So I just wanted to know how you feel about the whole Christensen situation.
I'm cool, like you. I'm very calm and collected with this one because I can't go and get outraged that he's not staying when a couple of years ago, if you had told me Christensen was going, I'd have been like, fine, fair enough. It's a shame, but maybe he does suit La Liga or Bundesliga better. That would have been my thought pattern, I wasn't actively saying let's sell him because I wasn't really convinced with any of our centre-backs. David Luiz, Rudiger, all of them were kind of secondary defenders. That's the term I kept using. Secondary defenders. None of them are really leading the back line. They're all kind of available in a way for the right price. And Christensen commands a lot of money on the European market. Everybody knows that he's a player that a lot of clubs have always been interested in Europe. So with Christensen, it's like I'm not really too like. Obviously, he's gonna be a miss. He's a very, very good defender, top defender on his day, and he's settled and he's playing well. And that's not a given when the new guy comes in that they're going to play on the same level as Christensen. It may take a year. So that's the big L for us. And especially with new ownership now, we don't know how much money we're going to have. We don't know if we're really going to get Koundé. Like, I was a lot more calm with the situation when we had Roman because I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure we'll be able to pay for Koundé. So if Christensen goes, we replace him with Koundé. Koundé doesn't have to start immediately. Maybe he needs to acclimatize, adapt. We'll be fine. But now we don't know who the owners will be and we don't know how much money we're going to have. Letting him go for free is a bigger L for us than it was 2 weeks ago. In saying that, I can't get angry at him because yes, the contract situations could have been handled better. I keep saying though, it's not him in charge of the contract negotiations, it's his agent, his dad. And that's why, and then he switched agent as well. And his dad, I wouldn't assume his dad is very experienced as an agent. I'm sure he just manages Christensen. This is the issue of having a family member run your management because they don't have the same experience as a Raiola or a Mendes or in terms of dealing with some of the biggest chief executives in football, which is Marina. She's right up there. So you can see how his dad probably took an L in the first negotiation with Marina. Then they had to go and run it by someone. Shit, that ain't very good. He's 25. This contract goes until 30, 29, and then Chelsea are going to start moving mad. You need to change your mind. You can't do that one. Go back to the drawing board. Go in again. Next contract. Screw it up again. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you could see in business how Christensen's dad versus Marina, how that can go wrong. Very quickly.
Absolutely, yeah. I never looked at it like that, to be honest with you.
It's a huge contract for Christensen. Like, it's literally, he's at his peak performance right now he's ever been at his career. He's at his perfect age. And we all know when he gets to the end of this contract, if he was still at Chelsea, that the club are going to start moving a bit iffy because he's near that 30 range. People don't like it because, they just want players to just sign. But this is business and these are their careers. Do you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And football's a short career as well. Yeah.
I said it in my video. Christensen's been one of the most cheapest assets to have on Chelsea's books. He didn't cost nothing, signed at 15. So he's already been here 10 years. So if he wants a new challenge now, I ain't got no problem with that. You've been here 10 years. Wage-wise, he cost Chelsea from the moment he signed the new contract in 2018 to this end of this contract, he would have costed Chelsea £17.4 million over 4 years. Right? Now, how much is he worth? Probably triple that.
Still
So
here.
he has saved Chelsea money in ways that people will never understand. And when they say, "Oh, he's leaving for free," we could have got this amount of money for him if he had made his decision last summer. You would have had to have sold him, maybe 50 million, cool. But you would have had to have replaced him with 50 million. So you would not have saved any money. Like in that regard, yes, we're wasting 50 million now, but the amount of money he saved us by being one of our cheapest earners and being from the academy. And again, these are the things that come into play when we talk about a contract and we talk about players that are from the academy and why they're potentially going to ask for so much money, because you didn't pay a transfer fee for me. So I'm playing at a level. I took a look at the wages. Reece is one of the lowest earners in the squad, but yet he's one of the best players. Reece is probably worth 50, 60, 70 million, right? He's one of the lowest earners, but he's one of the best players. In comparison to, say, who will I dash out there? A Timo Werner, who costs £47 million and is on 270,000 a week and is on the bench.
That's something that the new owners need to address as well.
These are the kind of discussions that will take place behind the scenes between an agent and a chief executive. Why am I, a key player at your club, playing football at the heart of the defense in the Champions League when I came on off the bench? So for people that say that he owes us stuff, for me, I don't really feel like he owes us anything either. I feel like we all watched his improvement, we all watched his errors, but then he got to the peak, and now he's won a Champions League and he's won a Club World Cup and a Super Cup. Yes, he hasn't won the Premier League. Yes, we would have wanted to see Christensen peak for longer, but let's not pretend like the fan base have been particularly, lovely for Christensen as well. A lot of fans were calling him slander names. They didn't want him.
Yeah. No,
so it's like we can't have it. We can't have our cake and eat it as fans. If you're gonna complain about a player leaving and you're not gonna look at the business point of it, and you're not gonna understand that as human beings we're gonna change our mind. We all change our mind every day. 1 minute we want this for dinner, then we change our mind. For me, Christensen changing his mind a couple times over the biggest contract in his career, I'm not really gonna start slandering him for it. I'm not going to lie to you, because I probably would have changed my mind as well. And most people probably would as well. And he's actually taking less money at Barcelona. So probably not even a money thing now. Now it's just about new challenge. And it's Barcelona. Again, this is an exciting project. We can't just live in this Chelsea bubble where only we are the kings here. It's Barcelona. Like, as Xavi, it's they're getting some new players in. Things are potentially going to be moving on the up in the next few years. If he brings La Liga back to Barcelona, it's a big deal. He's won a lot at Chelsea. So I don't really, I get the outrage, but I'm not agreeing with it, to be honest.
And they are building something good over there at Barcelona. This time last year, while they was going through like the whole pandemic situation, or whenever it was, when they're going through it, it looked like there was no way back for them. But how they've rebuilt has been good. Xavi seems to be getting it right with the players, integrating certain youth, obviously, to have Gavi and Pedri in that squad. And remember, he had to deal with a lot of injuries with Ansu Fati and obviously Ousmane Dembele, who we were linked with before. So Xavi, to be honest with you, hats off to him. I think he's doing a decent job over there. And you can definitely see the progress that's happening over at Barcelona. So you're right. It's always an incentive for a player to go over there and try and break that, to go for that Barca Real Madrid rivalry. They're two massive clubs, some of the biggest in football. So you can't really grudge these players.
Bro, like, as much as we banter Barcelona are Barcelona. Do you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like, it's not a joke. They are literally top 3 clubs in the world. People will interchange Real Madrid and Manchester United along with Barcelona. They'll interchange and move them around. But they're top 3 biggest clubs in the world. They're not going to be down for long. They're already, like you said, they got Gavi, they got Pedri, they got De Jong, they got now Christensen coming in. They're probably going to look at the fullback situations. Azpilicueta could even be going over there in place of Dani Alves, who may be the backup player then. They've linked with Erling Haaland as well. They're trying to find funds for that. If Dembele stays, maybe good friendship with Aubameyang. It very quickly becomes a good team again. Like, it don't take much. It don't take much for Barcelona to become a good team again. Not great, but good and in the right direction. If they pull off for Erling Haaland and they snag a couple free transfers and they get Traore signed up, who's actually looking right for them, gives them a different weapon. I'm not saying it's the Barcelona of old. Of course it's not. but it's a decent team to be
It's a
in,
decent
and
team,
there's something
100%.
bubbling. So you gotta, and we all know. I mean, Christensen's not even a guaranteed starter at Chelsea anyway. So if we're talking about minutes played, he's behind. Sometimes Trevor sometimes starts, sometimes Christensen starts.
Yeah,
Silva's
so
there,
when
Rudiger.
you look at it relatively, it's not
Yeah.
really the end of the world. It's just unfortunate that he's going under the circumstances going. But I'm glad we touched on transfers, because I'm still seeing fans that are like, they still think our original transfer plans that we were talking about, up until this Roman bombshell with Chelsea, is still the same. And I think we've got to make it clear to some people that, where there's new owners, we can't even be thinking about transfers. What needs to happen is we have to let this situation sort itself out. We need to know who the owners are and see what their intentions are for the club, because we don't know what infrastructures they're going to bring to the club, whether they're even going to keep the infrastructures and the plans the same, whether they're going to take up their own model. We have no idea. We're literally in limbo right now as we speak. So in terms of your Kundes, your Chouamenis, or your Rafinhas, or whoever it is that we've been linked with, I'm just saying some real shit that I'm saying to the people: put that on the back burner for a second, because there's a very, very big chance that none of those targets will come to the club. There's also the possibility that they might come to the club. But just bear in mind, the first thing that people need to be thinking about before transfers is who's going to be permanently taking over the club. But yeah, because Matisse, I think we was tagged in something in Twitter that was asking. Yeah, I was just like, come on, mate. Do you know what I mean? But let's quickly talk about this whole takeover situation. In terms of a timeline, because there's people saying, oh, it was because at first it was the first 7 days there has to be a bid. Now it's mid-March. Now it's this. But we've always said that we're probably not going to know nothing until possibly May or June or something like that, where we're going to hear some concrete news. But in terms of that, what sort of expectations should the fans of the club have? Because they're being given mixed messages. So
Yeah, in terms of expectations, I wouldn't have any. I wouldn't have any. Anything can happen. Anything. Like this is the most like testing time probably since he took over Roman from Ken Bates. Like we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know who's going to get the club. We don't know how much money they're going to have. We don't know if it's going to be a group or it's going to be an individual. We don't know if they want to be sustainable, if it's going to be a new toy. We don't know anything. We literally know nothing. All we see is reports, and we see potential, and we see exploring, and we see negotiating, and we see bidders, and some are very vocal and some are not. So it's impossible to predict. I ain't even going to try and predict it, because you just get egg on your face at that point, because anything could happen. So my advice would just be to have no expectations on the transfer window. No expectations in terms of, I mean, the only thing I can say is that holes will have to be plugged. If we lose Rudiger as well, we will have to sign a centre back. We will have to promote Levi Colwell. And that's about it, because everything else is predicated on sales, who leaves and who comes in. Centre back's the only position where we've got so many contracts running out that we would have to do something. Everything else is we can't have any expectations. We could easily do a window of nothing. We could easily not sign any. We could easily just keep all the forwards we've got. My biggest thing is the contract negotiations that expire in 2023, because that's something that you can't run from. You can run from transfers, you can run from the transfer market and do nothing, but you can't run from Kante's contract. You can't run from Jorginho's contract. You can't run from, all of these guys' contracts. These contracts, you have to deal with them regardless. So it's going to be very interesting to see if we had the same struggle and same fight as we did this year with the defenders, as we do with the midfielders. Are they going to be, are they just going to just give them the money and just get the contracts wrapped up immediately? Or is it going to be even worse? And because they want to be a little bit more careful with the cash. If we under Roman are, penny pinching with contracts, imagine what we're going to be like with an American owner who maybe doesn't have all the money, or I don't know, a British owner who doesn't have all the money. It's only really the Saudis that is going to come with peace. So you just never know, man. You never know.
And speaking of the Saudis, not sure how true this is. Somebody put up in the comment section, sorry, the chat in the live that I done with Eunice yesterday, that the person who oversees the fund for that quote unquote investment group, or is a part of the investment group, is actually the King of Saudi Arabia. And there's a kitty of 600 billion there. Now, what Eunice said was interesting because apparently the King's son has a seat at the board in Newcastle. So would that mean, so if anything happens to the King, right, like for example, he passes away, obviously everyone has their day, you get me, when the ticker's over, but is he allowed to own two clubs? Will that be problematic? That's the question.
I ain't never seen it. But if you got the money, why not? Like, you know, I'm pretty sure owning two clubs has happened, just not in the same division.
Yeah.
And not in the top 5 division. Maybe in an obscure division, maybe. But like Man City's owners, they technically have a group of teams, don't they? They own Man City, they own I think a team in New York, they own a team in Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah, they own a team in Uruguay. They own an Australian team, I believe, as well. I'm not going to go through the names because I'll probably get some of them mixed up. So they, and probably a few more. I think they own a team on each continent, from what I'm aware of, something like that. So definitely, I think a French team as well, maybe in the second division. So you can own multiple clubs, but to own two clubs directly competing against each other in the Premier League is
conflict of interest, isn't it?
Conflict of interest potentially. I mean, what the conflict of interest would be, fans, like that would be weird for us, but for them, they'll just see it as two teams to take to the top and fight against each other. You're still going to be loaded, both teams, in the top 2, top 3. So it ain't bad living for them if that's what they want. It'd be mad though, isn't it?
Let me just address this real quick. Joey, big up yourself. Guni, you see Ian Scrime's tweet on the owners who are in the lead. I did see it. I saw it literally 5 minutes before I came onto the live stream. I don't think I'm very equipped enough to talk about it though, but that's something we'll definitely speak about on another live. But Eunice, I mean, I called you Eunice. Imagine I called you Eunice Matisse as well. Yeah,
it happens, bro. It happens.
Yeah, it happens. But
a lot of shows.
Matisse, in terms of like, I asked Eunice the question, so I feel like now I need to ask you. So, in terms of the type of ownership that you would want for the club, because obviously there's the quote unquote sports washers and if people don't know what a sports washing is basically you're buying the best players at all times and just, you get me, just a Galactico thing basically. And there's also the model of self-sustainability, the kind of thing that we were trying to go for under Roman and what Liverpool are currently doing as well. I don't know if there's any other kind of models, but what kind of model would you sort of want for Chelsea?
If it's gonna be an owner that wants to be quote unquote sustainable, then we have to follow the Liverpool model to a degree of recruitment at the very least, because their recruitment is A1. You know, I don't really remember too many flops in the last few years. People will say Keita, but that's been, for me, down to injuries, because I actually do see a good player in there and he started the season quite well. Chamberlain, another one, injury prone. But if you remember in their Champions League success, you know, in games against Man City, he did play quite well. So I don't think he's been an absolute flop, but you could definitely put him on the list of saying that he hasn't done what he was meant to do, but that's mainly because of injuries as well. But those are, you know, what, 35, 40 million a piece. Outside of those two, you know, everybody else, Robertson, Van Dijk, Alisson, Konate, you know, the front three, the two come in, Diaz and Jota. The hit rate's quite good, is my point. Yeah. You know, the hit rate, you're always going to get a couple wrong. Man City got Bravo wrong. You're always going to get a few wrong, but as long as your hit rate is looking good, that's the point. And that all starts with the technical director, you know, or the director of football, whatever you want to call it. They had that. They collabed with Klopp, and not every time they got the player he wanted, they actually suggested better because they had done their research. And that's what I mentioned a few months ago in talking about with Tuchel, where it's not just a case of just buy anybody Tuchel wants, because Tuchel will have better reference of players he's worked with, and we shouldn't just be scouting from a pool of players that Tuchel's worked with. Tuchel's not got time to go and watch, every single game around Europe, or go and watch all the leagues and find the gems. That's not Tuchel's job. Tuchel's job is to coach the team, produce the tactics and bring the results. Of course, he's going to watch football, but I'm sure he also wants to, spend time with his family as well. So how about the people that are paid to do that job, actually do that job and find us some gems? That would be the key for me. If you're gonna be a team that don't have money, you have to have good scouts to find the Tsimikas from Olympiacos for 12 million. If you can't find the Azpilicueta from Marseille for 7 million, if you can't do that with no money, then you've lost, because you now can't purchase the top end players because you don't have the money, and then you can't scout properly either. Edwards did just leave Liverpool. He's not going to be coming to Chelsea though, because I'm pretty sure he's trying to take a break.
Yeah, that's what he said.
So that's that. You either have money and you have no good scouts and you just splash your way to the top, or you have both, or you have scouts. If you got neither, which is potentially what we could be in a situation where we haven't got great recruitment record and we haven't got money, then we will be effectively screwed. That is how you become Arsenal. Prior this summer window that just went, where they actually had a good window, but that's how you become the decline of Man United, the decline of Arsenal. That will be us if we don't have one of those two things, if not both. City have both. So that's how I see it personally.
Ben, well, you can read the name for yourself. You get me. No offense to Marina, but a new director of football like Campos will be ideal for us in getting those smart transfers. I think regardless of whatever model we go for, somebody like Campos should be considered for that position. However, we do have Peter Cech, and that's interesting as to see whether whoever's taking over the club is going to keep him in a position, because Peter Cech is in a unique position from Marina as to that he's a legend at the club. So that might hold weight for him when it comes to the new owners. They might see as, letting him go might, it might upset the fans or break the harmony in the back room or whatever. He's a well-liked person at the club. So I can see one or two people staying on regardless of what owners come. So that's going to depend as well. But I would like to see someone like Campos, a Monchi. I think Monchi is a bit more hands-off than Campos is, because from what I understand with Campos is that he's very much involved with the chief scouts as well, in terms of the whole scouting network process. So I do think that's a good idea. But can you see that happening as well, or do you see Peter Cech sort of growing into that kind of figure at the club?
I mean, Marina's collaborated with people before, so people make the assumption that Marina can't collaborate. She collaborated with Emanalo, She's had roles in the club where she's been a bit lower down the pecking order. I think she was appointed chief executive in 2017, maybe around that time. Not sure, maybe 2015. I'm not sure, but she did rise up. She wasn't always at this position in the club. And for me, it's like, I do value what she does, so I would prefer her to stay. I also do think ripping up their entire hierarchy and just going completely fresh with, on top of that, new owners who are probably not in the football landscape already because they're coming from outside, and expecting them to just understand things immediately. Yeah. I think that's a big risk. And people don't value what Marina does very much at all. I think it's quite poor, to be honest, that people just see a transfer window and that's the only part of her job they want to judge, and of course that's the only part fans actually care about. But sponsorship deals, huge. We talk about Chelsea's revenue not being that great, so Marina is even more important to Chelsea than she would be at other clubs, because other clubs have 70,000 seater stadiums. Other clubs have that extra bit of revenue coming in that we don't have. So we are in an even more precarious position where we need money to come in from these negotiations and these deals. And that's why she's so key. This deal with Nike for 10 years, these little deals with Trivago. I saw an article where she had negotiated with over 500 either parents or agents over the summer for different deals, from the youth team all the way up to the first team, incomings, outgoings, players, you know, that are getting pro contracts, players that are signing, players that are leaving, contracts with agents, agent fees, all these things. People don't appreciate these deals and how long they take. People say she's not doing anything. This is taking too long. People don't understand the steps of a transfer. If you put in a bid for a player, you have to wait on a response. If you get a rejection, you have to reassess your finances for the year, understand your budgets, understand your pros and cons, how important the deal is, etc., and rejuggle your finances and go again. You have to establish if you have space in the squad. A lot of the reason as to why we can't get players in is effectively because of players not being able to go out. Now, why can't those players go out? Because of poor deals done by her, of course, 100%. You have to give her the blame for putting some of these players on the contracts that they're on. But she is trying to improve that now. And it's very clear since Petr Cech's come in that Chelsea are trying to move in a more positive direction. You have to give them time to unwind the mess that's been made. It's not going to be done overnight. Some contracts are running out in 2023, like Alonso, like Barkley. My biggest criticism of her would be to stop renewing contracts and then sending them out on loan. I don't want to see Bakayoko given an extra year and then sent on loan to AC Milan. Batshuayi. Because all you're doing, I mean, again, we all put the blame on her. The reason why she does this stuff is not because she finds it fun to negotiate with Bakayoko's agent and Batshuayi's agent. She's not doing this because she wants more things to do. Why is she doing this? Because Roman is no longer investing. She's doing this because she has to find money from somewhere. Because Roman is no longer dashing money left and right. So that's why she's doing these things. If people actually understand why she's doing what she's doing, yes, it's not always going to go the right way and it's very frustrating and we don't like it, but it's happening for a reason. It's not happening because Chelsea are splashing money. It's not happening because we're rich. It's not happening because we have great revenue from our state. It's happening because we are in a precarious position with revenue. So she has to find that money elsewhere. And once that changes, if that changes, then she could be a lot more loose with the funds. Or potentially she might have to be even more tight with the funds if the owner is not as wealthy and they want to move in that direction. Starts from the top. You know, she's an employee as much as anybody else is. Now she is in charge of the employees under her, but she is also an employee of Roman. That's what people need to remember.
She's got targets she needs to meet as well. Do you know what I mean?
She's got targets she's got to meet. She's got targets she's got to meet, and she has to answer to Roman. And you don't work with Roman for 20 plus years since 1997, starting off as his PA and moving up. You don't work with Roman for that long unless you're good at your job. If people rate Roman, how can you not rate the person he selected as his second in command year in, year out?
Exactly.
Because you know Roman will fire someone, no problem. He ain't got no issue firing people. So if you rate Roman, how can you not appreciate some of the things that she does? It's not possible. Because Roman's not an idiot. Roman is a billionaire. He will sack people left, right, and center for nothing.
No feelings.
Do you know what I'm saying? No feelings, no heart. It's not an issue. You can go. So my thing is yes, the transfer windows are not enjoyable. Yes, the transfer windows are a bit mad. Yes, we should probably never have in hindsight spent 100 million on Lukaku and sold half of Cobham. It ain't perfect. But outside of the transfer window, the contacts that she has, the connections that she has, the standing she has in world football, and the amount of work she has to get through, maybe we just need to delegate better as well. Maybe we shouldn't have her negotiate every single contract at the club. You know, there's so many things that you can do to adapt. I'm not saying she's perfect. I'm not even saying I want her in the same role, but you've got to be better than just Marina out. Hashtag.
Yeah, 100%.
You've got to be better.
Why? Yeah.
You got to think more than that. You know, you got to think about it a little bit more. Think about why things are potentially going wrong. Think about what she does right, and then maybe say let's reallocate her to a different position of less strength, less power. There's so much better solutions than just saying come out
get out of the club. No, it's a fact.
It makes no sense.
No, that's a good. I'm glad you gave that perspective 100% because it even opened my eyes a little bit as well, and I'm sure it did to most of the people in the chat as well. But Matisse, we're about to wrap this up. But to everybody that's in the chat, make sure you do smash that like button. I can see we've got 95 people in here. So smash up that like button. If you are new to the channel, hit the subscribe. We are on the road to 10K. But first, we must get to 6K. And we're very, very close to getting to 6K. So help a brother out. You get me? Help me get there. But Matisse, what have you got coming up today? I'm pretty sure you are busy.
Very busy. Last thing I want to say just before I plug, just Frederick in the chat, Marina and Emanalo don't do the same job. So if Marina leaves and Emanalo comes in, you're missing all of the negotiating with the contracts that I'm talking about. You know, Emanalo is transfers, of course. You know, he's got a great eye for that. But Marina's not just about transfers; she's about all the other stuff I mentioned. So that's important to note. In terms of me, I'm gonna do a watch along on Twitch for PSG Real Madrid at 7:30. Matisse Armani, same out on all socials, same out on Twitch. I'll be doing that watch along. I'll probably put a review out as well for that game because I just want to cover more clubs. You know, I feel like it's just good to speak about other clubs. It's less stressful, you know. Just
100%.
Get a better perspective on things. And there's London Clubs Carnage, which is out now as well with Lee and Toby. Brilliant show. Such a good conversation today. We spoke about a lot of things. False nine versus traditional striker. Lacazette's role at Arsenal. The great goals that were scored. Lampard at Everton. Hudson-Odoi. Bunch of stuff. So check that out on YouTube. Yeah, loads of stuff.
Yeah, man. And as for this channel, we will be doing a watch along tomorrow. Definitely. I am feeling much better than I was over the weekend, so there's no excuses to up and go tomorrow. So make sure you're here. The notification bell is switched on, and also as well, my details, Matisse's details, and my personal social medias are down there. All clickable links. Make sure you do follow those. But wherever you are, whatever you're doing, make sure you do stay safe and up the Chelsea.